So you smashed up your motorbike?
I did.
What's up, guys? It's Greeny. I'm with my buddy Mark. You may recognize him. He's been in one of my past videos. I met up with him when he was in the middle of a road trip, traveling like to most of the provinces all over Thailand on his motorbike. And I used to tell people that told me like, oh, you know, aren't you worried about riding a motorbike in Thailand? Like, isn't it dangerous? I'm like, oh, my buddy Mark's been to almost every province and has had no problem. So you were at the tail end of your trip, your adventure, and
Yep.
in Khon Kaen, what happened? You got
Yeah, it's just actually above Konkan proper, and yeah, I just had pulled out, but a guy behind me had run the light and smashed into the back of my bike. Everything kind of went flying. Fortunately, I just missed the car that my bike did not miss, and so I had pretty good damage to the bike, but it was mostly cosmetic. And fortunately, I was, a couple bruises and banged up for a little bit,
okay.
but pretty lucky.
I'm glad you're okay.
Me too.
And in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about insurance in Thailand. First class insurance. You had first class insurance, right?
I did.
And I just want to go through this because it's kind of been a nightmare for him. You know, he came to me and he told me a little bit about his experience. And we waited about 3 months to make this video to see if this would get resolved. This accident was a while back. When was the accident?
August 7th. So it's been just over 5 months.
Oh, 5 months now. Let's get into it. Now, unfortunately, there's libel laws here. We're not going to name any companies. We're not going to name anything. There's an issue with a shop. We're not going to name that. Everything's going to be in generality, and sorry about that. We just can't say anything, but just to give you an idea of what can happen here in the land of smiles, if you have an insurance claim with a car or motorbike or anything, just kind of a horror story. Okay, Mark, so before we get started with what happened, let's talk about how you chose what insurance company you're going to use. I know you're pretty diligent when you're, investigating different things and you want to make sure that you get the right coverage and everything. How many companies did you look at? Did you get quotes? Like, how did you choose an insurance company for your motorbike?
Fortunately, that's one of the easier things to do here in Thailand. I think both from a health or a car or vehicle perspective, experience that I had and that others have shared with me, it was very similar. And that once they had your basic information, name, age, what you're looking to do, they'll send you a link. And then from that link, you're given a multitude of different options. There's probably at least 6, 7, 8 different companies I had to choose from. And then you could just plug in how much coverage you wanted. They would give you sort of the basic, the first class garage, then you had second class, third class. And then of course, within those ranges, you can choose a higher amount of coverage for medical or the accident itself, things like that.
So you went through a service, but then you went with an insurance company. Did you do any research on that specific company, like to see, what their reputation is, what they're rated on Google?
Yeah, I didn't really do any specific Googling or anything on that company. That company, the agency was recommended to me from another friend here that I'd met in Thailand. So I kind of started there, but I figured one agency is kind of very similar to, almost any other agency.
Right.
And the process, a couple others I did look at, was the same sort of a thing. They send you a link, they give you the different options, and it was all a matter of choosing which company you wanted that made sense for the amount of coverage that you wanted.
Right, and it has to be difficult because people can't go online, and if they have complaints, they can't really air their dirty laundry, on the web here, on reviews, on Google, on whatever, because
Correct.
Places they can come after you. You can't mess with their business. All right, so you get in the accident, near Khon Kaen somewhere, and go ahead and fill us in what happened.
So after the accident, picked up all the stuff, got it together. Then the police truck was there, took some basic information, put my bike on the back of the truck. I got inside the truck with the policeman, went to the local police station. Of course, the ambulance showed up within minutes. They were on scene, and he wanted my passport, a copy of my passport, to take me to the hospital, even though I was kind of, banged up a little bit. I didn't think that was right for me. Plus, my life was literally scattered all over the road there. So cops came, bike on the truck. I got in the truck, went to the local police station, and then there they began doing their report. I was probably there for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Both insurance companies showed up. I imagine they're adjusters. And then I was actually given a physical copy of the report. It's 3 pages, and I was very surprised to see that I was not at fault for the accident. As many might assume, as I had assumed, maybe you did too, as a foreigner here in a foreign country, typically, it's not a big surprise to find out that you're probably at fault for almost whatever might happen in an accident. But as it turned out, the other party of the truck that hit me was clearly at fault there. I was able to use the Google Translate on my phone. And then in getting driven down to Konkan proper with my insurance adjuster, he confirmed that for me that the other person was at fault. And there was actually, video footage, CCTV of the accident. So at that point, everything seemed pretty good.
So, all right, going back to the ambulance showing up. So you signed off. You didn't get transported.
Yeah, I didn't sign anything. But
was there ever any charge for that, like
No.
with the insurance or whatever? So okay, so you just signed off and they went away. Okay.
Yeah. So they told me I was pretty much as soon as the accident happened, got in touch with a friend. So I was in direct communication on my phone with my insurance agency just to make sure I had everything as clear and direct as possible. They basically left me know that they were going to transport me to a local hotel and would put me up for at least a couple of nights until they got the the investigation performed and an estimate for the bike and things of that nature. However, the hotel they dropped me off at was a very expensive hotel, and it became abundantly clear as soon as I walked inside that they weren't expecting me. And I was
Who dropped you
a
off at the
stranger.
hotel?
This was the insurance adjuster that drove me down.
A representative from the insurance company. So you were just random wherever you take me. They took you to this specific hotel, whatever one
Correct.
it was, but it was an expensive hotel. Okay.
Yeah, it was the adjuster wearing the their insurance company name on the shirt, the
Okay.
whole 9 yards, and on the car. So I get there, I'm like, wow, this is a really nice hotel. I was very surprised. And then when I go inside to check in, and they're like, do you have booking? Do you have booking? I'm like, no, I thought you were expecting me. So I got on the phone right away with my person again and said, hey, they don't have any idea that I'm here. And she's like, well, where are you? And I'm like, I'm at this hotel. And they're like, oh, that's very expensive. I'm like, yes, it's very expensive. So she's like, no, just pay for it, but you have to pay for it and then submit all your receipts for reimbursement. So reluctantly.
This is important later. They
Yes.
took him there. He didn't pick it. They took him there.
Correct.
But, okay.
Yeah. So I did all that and ended up staying there, but I was only there 2 days. I wanted to leave the next day because I just didn't feel good about it, because it was a 2,600 baht hotel, which is quite expensive when you can get something pretty decent.
For up north, that's crazy.
Yeah, for around 500-600 baht is even a pretty nice hotel. But again, everything was brought in off the bike. I had multiple bags there, my box, and obviously, again, I was a little banged up from the accident. A couple hours in the police station. I wasn't really going to be able to go shopping for a hotel.
It's hard to think of everything when you're going through all this craziness. And
Yeah, I mean, I was fully lucid as far as that goes, but I was, again, directly on the phone with her saying, hey, are you sure this is okay? This is a really nice hotel. So, yeah, unfortunately, that didn't end up.
Now, you did have first class insurance, right? That's you were supposed to have the Cadillac
Correct.
of insurance.
Correct. I had pretty much the most expensive insurance you can buy.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was there a couple of days, actually 5 days, and then after it was pretty clear, I still wasn't sure if they were going to fix the bike or the bike was totaled. I was kind of thinking it was totaled. It turns out they were going to try and fix the bike. Either way, I was trying to communicate with them that, hey, whether they're going to fix this bike or I need a new bike, I might as well get back to Pattaya as soon as possible, because I found that it would have been very difficult to buy a bike up there, even a used bike. First of all, there weren't really any available. And then secondly, once you establish your residence in a particular province in Thailand, that's going to be the easiest place for you to buy or sell any vehicle that you have. I could have bought something up there, but I'd have to go back to immigration, change my status, and it would have been rather arduous. So 5 days later, fly down to Bangkok, and then I had to have my box shipped because I obviously had too much weight to go on a plane and get back down here to Pattaya. And then it took about 5 or 6 more weeks for the actual bike to be repaired and delivered back to Pattaya.
Okay, so let's talk about the communication you had with the insurance company. So who chose where the bike was taken to be repaired?
My insurance company. It was one of their contracted garages that they made very clear.
So it should be pretty top-notch if that's who they deal with.
I thought it would have been, again, especially having the first-class garage insurance, and I was very clear, even from day one, that, okay, all the parts are going to be Honda OEM factory parts.
What type of bike do you have?
It's a Honda PCX. It was a 2022, so it was a brand new bike.
250 or?
It's a 160.
160. Okay, and you communicated to them, you conveyed, hey, make sure this is all legitimate, first-rate, original products. Okay,
Right.
so eventually the bike gets repaired, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then what happens? Once your bike's, how did you get your bike back?
Well, it was delivered back to, or transported back to Pattaya from Khon Kaen, which is, where the accident was and where the bike was repaired. And that was a whole other process too. They wanted to charge me 3,000 baht for delivery or for transport of that, and I was going to have to pay that before I actually picked the bike up. Unfortunately, when I got there to view the bike, which was delivered to my insurance agency office, and they unwrapped the bike with saran wrap, and right away I could see the badging on the PCX were actually stickers, the soft stickers, as opposed to the hard plastic badges that you get on every car, every vehicle that you buy.
Right.
And I pointed that out first thing to the representative from my insurance, and he's like, "Oh no, original." And I'm like, I'm pretty sure this isn't what was on the bike originally. And then in further inspection, I felt the paint on the bike, and it was just heavy overspray. You could feel it was very rough. It was like sandpaper. And I'm like, this isn't right. A couple other things didn't work. The gas cap thing didn't open up. But the main things were the badges was not correct. Oh, and also on the windshield, it says Honda along the lower bottom. And actually knew later there was a little decal that's on there from the factory. This was all gone. It was just a blank, dark windscreen, but it didn't look or feel right. So I felt that was a little bit off too. But main things were the paint and the badges and decals. Didn't think it was that big of a deal, but we had agreed there that these things were not proper, were not correct, were not OEM. So the insurance agency had agreed to hold the bike. I didn't have to pay the 3,000 for delivery, and they were going to give it to a shop basically around the corner from their location, a local shop here in Pattaya, to repair the bike and make those repairs.
You're expecting, all original equipment, just like you bought it, brand new.
Correct.
So, just like when in America you get a car, you take it to a certified place and they repair it and fix it, and it's supposed to be good. So when the new shop got it, received it, and inspected it, what did they tell you about the parts that were used?
Well, I had stopped there about 3 days later. I think it was a Thursday when it was dropped off, and I stopped back in there on Monday just to see how things were going because the shop was right there, and I couldn't find my bike. I couldn't see it. There weren't that many bikes out front, and there was only a couple bikes in the shop they were working on. It was a fairly small shop, so long conversation, really no English is spoken there. And I found out, I'm like, where's my bike? And well, they're like, what is your license plate number? And I told them, and she goes in the office and checks, and then she comes back out again, and she goes, there it is. And I looked there, and I was very surprised to see a completely naked bike, 2 wheels, engine, handlebars, no display, no plastics, and the seat. And that's all that was there, plus the fender coming off the back of the seat with my plate. And I was shocked to see that the bike was completely stripped down to basically the frame and the motor. And then they showed me a large cardboard box full of Honda OEM parts with the stickers on. I could see they were brand new parts, and they were still waiting for a few more parts to finish the repair of the bike.
So what they say about the parts they took off?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have a specific conversation, but in my multiple conversations with them, they were not happy with the previous shop, shall we say.
All right, let's just get to the point. This was all not secondhand, but it was all parts from maybe some country that manufactured that wasn't Honda.
Correct. When these the Honda parts come painted from the factory, so when you get a replacement part from Honda, if it's a black bike, it's going to be black. If it's red, it's going to be red. There's no painting. There's nothing required. So I knew the second I touched the paint, I could feel this. I said, somebody painted this. This is bad overspray everywhere.
So it was just BS parts. But did this company, the shop where they billed for like, oh, we put real Honda OEM, to the insurance company. Did you ever see that bill or that?
No, and I asked multiple times to see the estimate, to get information, and all throughout the whole process, anytime I asked for something, asked for additional information, when the actual estimate was going to be done, when the bike was going to be repaired, you just get long estimates, or you get lots of excuses of why you can't get what you're asking for. And my company was constantly pointing to the other company, the responsible party, for why they couldn't give me what I was asking for.
Now they're repairing your bike. How long did that take?
That was all in just about 2 weeks, because it was only a couple days the first time. Well, 2 weeks to get it repaired completely. The first time was just about a week, because I was surprised. I think it was around on Monday when I viewed the naked bike, and then 2 days later they call me and say, "Hey, your bike is done," or they send me a message online. I'm like,
Right.
"Oh, it's done." I was, surprised given the bike was completely stripped down, but really you're just bolting these parts back on.
Right.
So I go there to pick up the bike, and everything looked pretty good except the windscreen that again didn't have the Honda on it. I knew it wasn't original, and then I knew there was also a label missing. That was still on the bike. I was okay to take the bike with the understanding to replace that part. Oh, actually, there was one trim piece around the seat, which I noticed after I took it that there was 2 chips of paint that came from the factory that way. It was nothing that happened either with the install. So anyhow, that was additional stuff that had to be fixed later on. But anyhow, I couldn't take the bike that day. I had to wait because they still hadn't received payment for all the parts from the Honda factory. And when I asked further about that, or why is that? I figured this is all an insurance job. This should have been instant. They knew where the bike was. They knew it was being repaired. They should know quicker than me. They told me that they needed to get the funds, the money for the repairs, for the parts for the bike, and their labor had to come from the original shop that initially repaired the bike up in Khon Kaen.
Right, because they didn't want to pay twice, and they didn't do it right, so they wanted them to transfer the money.
And evidently, that's
The
how
insurance company was trying to get them, hey, we paid you, but you did a bad job. Now you need to send the money to the people that had to fix it.
Well, yeah, but again, they're telling me that the money came from the shop, not the insurance company, which didn't make any sense to me, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So I had to come back the next day to actually pick up the bike when the funds were received with the local shop here in Pattaya.
How long was the total amount of time that your bike was away from you?
All in till I had it back and everything was right, 7 weeks.
7 weeks to fix a motorbike.
Yeah, which was basically cosmetic plastic panels repaired.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So as far as all the repairs and everything, none of that was out of your pocket. The only thing that was out of your pocket was the hotel. What else did you pay out of your
Hotels, the airfare, the motorbike rentals in Khon Kaen and down there in Pattaya.
And all this was supposed to be covered as part of this first class insurance.
That's what I was told. Submit the receipts for reimbursement from the other insurance company.
And I remember you telling me that it was a whole big thing about you staying at this expensive hotel that they took you to. So just explain a little bit about those discussions.
Okay, so again, from the get-go, I was just told to give them all the receipts and proof of payment that I made these payments for the various services, and then also the couple parts that were broken on the bike, the box, and some other stuff. I'd given them all these receipts. I had a stack. It came to, with everything, just over 20,000, about 20,600 baht, which is about $600 US. So they had all the receipts, and when I gave them the final receipt, which was the last one, was for the local motorbike rental. Once I actually had my bike back, I had to wait to get the last contract there, obviously, because I didn't know when I was actually getting the bike back.
Right.
And they said, okay, well, how long now until I get my money? And they say about 15 days, which is the supposed normal turnaround for reimbursement things.
And about what date was that?
That was probably mid-September at that point.
Mid-September. And today is January 9th.
Something like that.
Have you received your money yet?
No, I have not.
And so you told me basically they're kind of like willing to pay, but they don't want to pay a lot of it. They say, oh, we're not responsible for this or that, but it's all technically should be covered.
It should have been, at least that's what I was told. But of course, between then and now, I've gotten so many different stories. And of course, no one is obviously stepping up and saying that anyone did anything incorrectly or not properly, to put it mildly. So basically what happened is I did get called back in to the office about a month later, so well past the 15 days. And then there were 2 representatives there from the other insurance in my insurance agency's office. And after a bunch of chatter back and forth, I could see my stack of receipts, mostly for the motorbike rentals and the airfare, things like that. And the guy points to it and goes, my die, which means cannot. And I'm like, well, that doesn't sound good. So instead of the 20,600 that I was expecting for full reimbursement, a number they came up with was a little bit over 8,000 baht. And their first question to me that came from my representative through the other insurance company was why I stayed in Khon Kaen more than 2 days. And they specifically told me to stay there. I wanted to leave. I was ready to come back after I did my research and found out I couldn't buy a bike. And if I wanted to get a new one, and if they were going to repair it, it was going to obviously be longer than a couple days or a couple weeks. So I might as well come back to Pattaya. But my insurance company specifically told me to stay in Konkan. So I just thought that was a very funny question. But at the end of the day, they said, okay, well, we'll need to review the information and we'll get in touch with you. So about a week or two later, they called me back in, but basically the number changed, I think maybe 200 baht higher than what it was. So at the end of the day, they were unwilling to pay any more than that 8,000 figure that they initially.
And you're still waiting on the 8,000, but you obviously want more, but eventually you're just, I mean, it's just,
yeah, and
they just bury you and you're just like, whatever,
Yep.
I'm just going to be done with it.
And yeah, just one other fact from that. So after that experience, and obviously there's a lot more, leaving out a lot other details here that'll just bore you to tears. But the director of the insurance agency, my insurance agency, came out, finally had a long, nice chat with him, showed him all the line messages, went through the receipts, and he even says, wow, you have a lot of messages here. I'm like, yep, I was following the explicit instructions of your staff, following it every step along the way, collected all the receipts, all the proof of payment, and now months later I'm being told a number that's about a third of what I actually put out, in addition to all the hassle and fun that I had going back and forth, multiple repairs on the bike, multiple trips back and forth. You know, no one cares about that.
Right.
But even when dealing with him, he's been very professional. He's saying all the right things, but that was again back in September, and here we are in January. And I'd even signed off on over a week ago. I'd actually signed off on the number, the figure. Bottom line was they weren't going to move off that 8,500 baht figure, and that's the way it was. The only other thing that my insurance agency did provide was, I don't know how exactly they worded it, but basically they know that they had failed me for my first class garage insurance that I had paid for, so they refunded me almost the full amount of my first year premium that I had paid, which put a dent in it. At the end of the day, money doesn't matter where it came from or what it is, but it's still far short of the money that I put out for various expenses.
So basically, if people come here and, you just normal things, you get an accident, you have insurance, things get repaired, everything's not going to work the way it does in the West. I mean, it does take a lot of patience to be here, and sometimes you're just going to have to eat it, and it's just not going to work out in our favor. It still doesn't make up for the beautiful sunshine and a lot of the pluses of living here. But, just so when you come, I just wanted you to know, not everything runs as smoothly as it would in the West. Maybe now there's a lot of things here that do run very smooth that I'm like, I don't want to just say, oh, everything's bad here. It's not. I love it here. And, when you try to make calls, like in the West, you always get the phone tree and you can't talk. Like here, you call places, you talk to a normal person. I call the hospital, I'm talking to people. There's certain things that I have got done here. The battery's dying, so we're going to wrap it up. Final comment.
The biggest takeaway for me in all of this was you can do all the due diligence in the world to get any kind of insurance. But should something happen, specifically here anyway, which at the time I didn't think was that big of a deal, is if something does happen to your motorbike or car or whatever, do whatever you can to get the vehicle, the car, home to your home province or area so you can keep an eye on things. And I know it might sound like common sense, but when it happened, again, with first class garage insurance, I was like, oh, no big deal. They're just going to fix the bike and ship it to me. But that would have saved a lot of heartache and trouble, no doubt.
If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next video. Greeny out.
Mark out.